I started to seriously use remnote in February after I lost my job, and that's also when I started to explore seriously how to take notes or connect notes properly. So in my first day at my job that I recently got, I realized that I never had the opportunity to apply these principles in an everyday basis. So in that first day, I was trying to remember how I used to take notes when work was not remote. And I recall that I would buy a notebook or a notepad and write notes there, but I also remember that I would still use random pieces of paper here and sticky notes to just jot things down randomly, which means everything's all over the place. Like, they're not dated, no organization whatsoever, which is problematic. I'm sure I'm not the only one who used to do that. So in today's video, I will give you ideas how to use remnote to take notes for work. I will specifically use the remnote features, daily documents, to-do, templates, and portals. Step 1, which is optional actually, but you change the look of remnote. And no, I don't mean CSS wide. It's just before I used to have a dark mode on, so I just changed it from dark mode to light mode. Then I also modified the default names, like the daily documents and to-dos. As you can see here, I prefer lowercase so it looks casual and fun. And I've also added lots of emojis because I'm obsessed with them and I cannot deny that. Look at that, it looks so cute. Step 2 is set up the sidebar. So I'm going to create a new document for the company name. I'm just going to call it marketing agency here for the sake of this example. And it's tagged as document, so it shows on the sidebar. Then quickly moving this from draft to pinned. I then will create new document for each main area of projects, right? So let's say, for example, for me, my role is responsible for 3 areas: brand, process, and let's say miscellaneous. So I will create one document for each of those. Then obviously they're probably tagged as document already. So that means they show up on the sidebar. And as you can see, I drag them all under the marketing agency document. Right now, I'm organizing each area by week, and I'll explain why later. Step 3 is create templates. Now, in remnote, technically, there's no entity such as template, but you can combine features so it would act as a template. Clicking on the templates document here. So I added a common structure here of my notes for work. So as you can see here, there's that work, which is the parent, and I want that as a parent of all of these because remember that I'm not only writing about work on the daily documents. So I like to have that option to easily collapse that. Then I'm adding my quick daily recurring meetings, and then I'll add notes and reflection, recap, lessons, questions. I will explain later what those mean. Okay, so you can stop there really and just copy that every day on the daily documents. But if you have daily stand-ups, for example, which I actually just implemented for the team, you would want to add questions like, what did you do yesterday? What are your priorities today? Any roadblocks? So just writing the sub-bullet points here. And when you're done, you go to the parent rem, which in this case, it's a daily stand-up. Apply automatically add template power up, and then go to each sub-bullet and turn them into slot. Quick tip here is to turn this only search concepts off. Now that that is set up, I can show you how to call that later. This feature is for remnote Pro, which is $6 per month. Feel free to use my affiliate link to sign up if you want. And of course, note that I will get a kickback if you use my affiliate link. Step 4 is use daily documents daily. So write personal notes here, maybe you're journaling or documenting what you consumed that day. Now let's just copy paste the note structure, quote unquote, template that we just created. Okay, so you have two options here. You can either copy paste it like this, no turning any child or rem into a slot, no power-ups, or you can call the daily stand-up template that we just created, and we do that by typing hashtag daily stand-up. The difference between these two is that if you shift click to any of these questions, under references, you can see all your previous responses. So it's really up to you if that is useful in your case.
Sweet. So for meetings, I get one-on-ones with people talking about different projects. So I like to prepare beforehand what I want to touch base on.
I like to reference who is attending, and of course I would take notes of what we talked about in that meeting.
Tell me, do you do this too where you overestimate yourself? So you write a long freaking list of to-dos a day and you rarely complete all of them? Because I do, which I know can actually damage my self-esteem. Not good. So I'd like to reference that to-do that I did that day. You know, it could also work the other way around, right? It could be blank and I realized I was in the meetings all day, which means things need to change.
For reflection, I added a recap to keep track of what I actually accomplished that day. Then lessons, if there are some feedback I got or mistakes I made that day, I like to jot those down too. And then lastly, if there are any questions that arise throughout the day.
All right, step 5 is organize the notes by area of project. So I like to do this at the end of the working day. And you can do this by portals and adding reference. So when you're in a meeting, you likely will talk about a sole project, right? But sometimes those projects involve the same people. So we tend to sneak in a couple of sentences here and there about a different project that meeting was designed for. So this is where the power of remnote really shows.
Okay, so let's open an area in another pane, and we do that by shift click. Since I'm in marketing agency process, I would look through the daily documents and see which notes are related to marketing agency process. And I see that my notes under one-on-one with CEO, we mainly talked about the process. So I highlight that, copy portal to rem, or use the shortcut and paste to the marketing agency process.
Yeah, so this is actually probably my favorite feature of remnote. So I'll do it for the rest of it. This is also good in terms of reviewing what happened that day.
It's awesome because you don't have to copy paste manually if you end up editing one of them, because these are synced. I will copy rem reference sometimes rather than copy portal if there's only that one line, but most of the time I use portals.
Step 6 is work by project area. So every day, or 90% of the days, I actually time block based on the area. So I focus mainly on that area by opening that page on the side and working off of that, because then I see all the notes related to that. I won't get distracted by notes that are not relevant to that project at all.
So I'm reviewing this right now, see which are actionable items, and then tag as to do. I'm also brain dumping here on my thoughts on a certain project.
2 tips. First, use tags. So I've used this actually in my how to practice for job interview, I believe, and I use filter tags a lot. So I will do this for to-dos in terms of like project, etc. Tip number 2 is create a page for each person. So basically I use it kind of for CRM.
So if it's my first time meeting that person, I would create a separate page for that person. remove the stub tag and add the CRM tag instead. And then take whatever notes you want, and then they're all gonna be under tagged rem.
In my first week, I actually scheduled a one-on-one for each person in the team so I could get to know everyone. So that's when I started to create a page for each person and jot down things that they mention, like which city they live in, hobbies, do they have dogs, cats. Like, it could actually sound/look creepy, but it's something that they tell me, so it's not really creepy. Anyways, hope this video helps. See you in the next one.